Welcome back, everybody, to the Persian perspective. Welcome back to the show. I know all 5 of you listeners are missing me greatly, but I decided to come back to the show because why not? I don't have anything better to do. This show is brought to you from Thailand. But, a little bit of a. I'm sorry, I've been binging Bill Burr's Monday morning podcast. It's quite a good time for that show. Anyway, why did I decide to come back? Because, well, again, got nothing better to do, and the world seemed to be gone to shit. And every goddamn celebrity seems to be having a podcast going on, so I thought, why the hell not me? Heather Graham has a podcast now, for the love of God. I mean, she's a nice lady, bless her heart, but I'm just saying, like, everybody has a podcast now, and 99% of them are trash. Some of them are becoming trash, like Joe Rogan's, unfortunately. Not saying that to be mean, but for the love of God, man, what happened to him? Which kind of relates to the topic I want to talk about today. Because I remember I started this podcast during COVID-19, and I was going through a lot then. I still am, but I'm doing significantly better now. And not many podcasts were on then, but it slowly became very much of a lucrative business thanks to Joe Rogan. And I'm listening back to some of those episodes and I'm realizing all the things that I've been through, considering my circumstances and my friend's circumstances, who was my co-host, Rakib. And I thought about, like, all right, let's see what's happening to the world now. Unfortunately, my co-host is not with me now. We're in a different country, and love him to death. We might have some online episodes together, but at the current moment, no. Let's see where this first episode after this long hiatus will go. But anyway, I'm digressing. Something that has happened, this whole thing kind of came to my attention because I'm an avid Rogan fan and I'm an avid Jordan Peterson fan, and it kind of brought to my attention what the hell has been happening to the world at the current moment with the whole New World Order shit. I'm not here to discuss the whole 12-day war with Israel, for the love of God. Fuck those guys. I'm serious, like. They've done more damage to their own reputation than anybody else. That's going to be a whole separate thing. But I'm going to talk about when people actually fall in love with themselves and they don't have anybody to keep them in check. Which is a very essential thing to do, to think of it, during the whole pandemic, I was listening to Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan. I'm going to focus on Jordan Peterson for the sake of this conversation, because if you're listening to him and you've been following him for quite some time, you know that something has happened to him that is very strange, not necessarily pleasant to begin with. Jordan Peterson was a great professor, is a fantastic author, and talks about the things that are of value, like taking responsibility, seeking meaning, and bettering yourself throughout your life, fixing yourself before trying to fix the world, and yada yada yada. Now, what happened to him suddenly at a certain point was he started talking about anything and everything. He talked about diet. This is something that I got from one of my friends in the US when I was talking to him. He stopped listening to stopped listening to Jordan Peterson way before I'd stopped listening to him. Where he was talking about, he said this a specific thing. He said, I don't know about Jordan Peterson anymore, man. I saw him talking about carnivore diet on Dr. Oz, and I don't know if I want to listen to him anymore. And I just didn't understand what the hell he was saying. I thought, I was like, is he being a little bit of a hater, or is like a nitpicker or something? Why wouldn't he talk about the carnivore diet? But then I realized that later that, oh my god, he was right. Somebody like Jordan Peterson, who spoke about these profound things from psychology to your everyday life and how you should better yourself, suddenly has become somewhat of a, I'm not sure if the word tyrant is the one that I should describe him for as, but I should say he's somewhat of a phony. I think that's the best thing to call him now. He's a bit of a phony now. He's a man in love with his own voice. He's a man who fall in love with the sound of his intestine producing shit, because the mic is so up there that he mistakes the sound of his ass producing shit as the claps and the cheers. The thing that's happened throughout these few years is that all the idols that are of our time, in a sense, and he was an idol for quite some time. People looked up to him because he was a beacon of morality and justice, for the love of God. He became redundant. He started talking about everything, and the more he spoke, the more shit started coming out of his mouth, and there's nobody there to check him on it. His daughter is making money, and she's happy as it gets, and she fancies herself a great intellectual. She's a smart lady, but Jesus Christ, you can't be everything at the same time. And at a certain point, I was wondering what the hell happened. And the unfortunate thing here is that you realize everybody eventually that will happen to you. Same thing with Rogan, that nobody was there to tell him, like, hey man, your last 3 specials sucked badly. The suck dick really did. But because of his power and influence, nobody, even subconsciously, possibly subconsciously, dares to tell him, hey Joe, what the fuck? Like, your specials suck. What's happening, man? Like, stop podcasting, stop ranting about COVID and bears and crossbows and compound bows, and just go work on your comedy for a few days and a few weeks or a few months. Jordan Peterson, I was really taken aback by the fact that he's turned into this kind of a I have no problem with him wearing a 3-piece suit, but because his 3-piece suits have become kind of a ridiculous feature of him, thanks to his styling and all that, you can't help but to point it out. That he started his own university where you don't get a degree, where you get substandard tests, where everybody who's done the test now, any test that you get on that platform, people say it's shit, and you get a bachelor's degree from him. I was wondering what happened, and I realized something that happened with him was in his documentary. In his life documentary that came a few years back, he was talking about seeing Robert F. Kennedy's funeral and the fact that the train was passing by, the train that carried Robert F. Kennedy's coffin, and he saw that people were all standing in the sidelines saluting the train as it passed by, and he said, I saw that and I thought, I too shall have that kind of a funeral. And he said that was one of his earlier memories, and that's something that came to him, which is a very profound thing for a kid to think, but it's also profound because he still remembers it. And I believe it's his core reason for being, his core raison d'etre. That's why he's doing all these weird shit, and he's also being hypocritical about his beliefs, which is something that I can't get behind anymore. I don't care if you're a Christian, you're Jewish, you're Zoroastrian, you're Buddhist. I don't give a fuck about any of this. I care if you uphold the values that's been preached. Most religions, 99% of religions, all say the same thing. Just be a nice person to your brother, to your friend, to your neighbor. That's the basics of it. I don't care about it, but I don't care if you're about the religious part. And I don't care that he kept saying that he's a Christian, and he went on a 40 atheists against a Christian debate, and really just kept losing the arguments and tried to like maneuver, and you could tell he couldn't take the fact that he was losing arguments at times, and somewhat he became even nasty during the arguments. But what got to me was, this is a guy preaches about Christianity, preaches about following the Lord and following, not I suppose saying he preaches about Christianity is wrong, but it is one of the pillars of his conversations to a certain degree. That's for sure. And but the fact is, like, even if you take that part aside, 90% of his lectures are about the things that Soviets did to Germans and their own people, and also the things that the Nazis did and the atrocities that these two regimes committed. Now, here comes years later that now he is a person of great influence, being paid a lot of money to do a lot of conferences. Good for him, no problem with that. He suddenly gets a chance to speak with Benjamin Netanyahu thanks to his BFF Ben Shapiro, which is a very weird character, I have to say. Like, my God, man, what the hell is up with that guy? And the man who preaches about the atrocities of these groups, and all the bad things that happened during World War II and prior to that, is now suddenly sitting and talking with a known war criminal, and no pushback, no questions, nothing provocative. Every question he asked was almost in praise of Israel and everything is done and everything that country is established. And it was a moment that kind of broke the character for me. Now, if you're a listener in the US, or if you're I don't know, I don't want to use the term pro-Israel, but I think some people might see this as like, oh, you're saying that because you're anti-Semitic and Benjamin Netanyahu is blah, blah, blah. No, I'm saying that for the fact that that regime in Israel, and Netanyahu specifically, have committed atrocities, known atrocities, and they haven't even done much to hide it, for God's sake. And Jordan is like, oh my God, you're an amazing person. I love you. You people got the land and you actually built something on it. Whoa, that's good. That's not what a Nazi would do. This is really right. All the Judeo-Christian values, you're really upholding it. You can even tell the way he talks about the Abrahamic Accords. It's like the way that he says it. You can tell he gets a boner every time he just says the words. Like, oh my God, you have the Abrahamic Accords. Like, oh my God, you have the Abrahamic Accords with your neighbors. Isn't that fantastic? But it's like, Jordan, aren't you going against everything you said? Aren't you the guy who talks about all these weird things and not all these things about atrocities and all these bad things that has happened to the world, but you're not even trying to you're closing your eyes on something. So it made you realize that even he can be bought. I believe he's bought to a certain degree, but at the same time, I believe it's also his kind of a will to power moment, because he went to Jerusalem and he was like having a dinner with Netanyahu, and he was loving the fact that they're shaking hands and he posts pictures and all this, and he's like, it's a way for him to reach that dream of having a funeral like Robert F. Kennedy's. And it is disappointing. I mean, you expect people to do better. I try to do better. I mean, for the love of God, I try to clean my room and I try to be a better person. God knows I fail 90% of the times, but when you go ahead and tweet at a war criminal to give them hell, enough is enough. Like, why did you put enough is enough there? Like, do you know the history of the land? Do you know what has happened? Do you even care? So if you don't care about them, then well, you shouldn't even talk about the Nazis and the Russians and what they did to their people. Because you're just advocating for something else. I don't know what I'm trying to get at here. I honestly don't. Don't put people on the pedestal, I guess. It's like, look at Joe. Look at his comedy career. Look at how people are like, Jesus Christ, what the hell? Rogan's been doing with the comedy, and his one shitty stand-up special after another. The biggest indicator of one's wisdom, if you want to know, at least that's what Iranians used to say, is look at someone who knows when he has to shut the fuck up. You need to know when to shut the fuck up. There was a tradition back in the day in Middle East, I believe. I don't know how true it was, but people used to carry a stone and they would place it in their mouth, and they would have that little piece of stone in their mouth the whole time. The only time that they were allowed to take out that stone was that when they really evaluated every word they were gonna say, and they knew it was gonna be something worth saying. And if they take out that stone and some bullshit came out of their mouth, they were punished. Now, I'm not saying if that's a real thing that happened. Could have been. I wouldn't be surprised. But I feel like a lot of people could use a fucking stone in their mouth these days. Nobody's keeping check on anybody these days. Anyway, this is just an episode talking about this. I'll be covering what the fuck was up with the Charlie Kirk and Jimmy Kimmel in the next following episode. I'll be doing more podcasts for sure. So yeah, I know this wasn't a great episode, but stay tuned. Let's see what the hell happens. Anyways, thanks very much. Take care, you guys. Till the next episode of Persian expecting. I am an expecting Persian. Till the next episode of Persian Perspective. Ciao, guys. Take care.